There's one fear that haunts people more than aging itself. It's regret. Today, I want to share with you how to grow old without that weight. Not just to live longer, but to live better. You know, when I think about what really matters in life, it's never the trophies we earned or the money we spent years chasing. It's the people, the moments we shared, and sometimes the ones we missed. There's a certain kind of silence that comes with growing older, and in that silence, old voices tend to echo the loudest. Voices of loved ones we lost touch with, conversations we never had, apologies we were too proud to say. I remember sitting with an old man once. He was in his late 80s, sharp mind, still full of humor, but there was this sadness in his eyes. He told me about a falling out he had with his son. They hadn't spoken in over 20 years. It started over something small, an argument, a misunderstanding. Pride stood between them like a wall no one was willing to climb. And now, his son was gone, and the words "I'm sorry" just echoed in his chest with nowhere to land. He looked at me and said, "It's not the pain that haunts you, it's the silence, the time that passed when it didn't have to." That hit me hard. We think we have time to make amends, time to say, "I love you," or "I forgive you." But life has this cruel habit of speeding up when you least expect it. And before you know it, the people you care about are no longer a phone call away. So don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It rarely comes. Send the message. Show up unannounced. Say the thing your heart keeps whispering in the quiet hours. Because loving boldly and forgiving freely isn't just for them. It's a gift you give yourself. A chance to grow older without that weight sitting on your chest. You know, when we're young, we treat our bodies like machines. We push them hard. We ignore the pain. Sleep is optional. Rest is weakness. And health? Well, we assume it'll always be there. But as time passes, something shifts. You wake up one morning and your knees ache in a way they never did before. You bend to pick something up and realize, this used to be effortless. And suddenly, you understand. This body? It's not invincible. It's a home. One that's carried you through heartbreak, through joy, through every single sunrise and storm. I once met a woman named Elena. She was 74, used a cane, and walked slower than most. But every morning at 6 a.m., she was out walking the park trail, rain or shine. I asked her one day, "Why so early? Why every day?" She smiled and said, "Because for years I treated my body like it didn't matter. Now I show up for it, because it never stopped showing up for me." That stayed with me. Your body tells the story of your life. The scars, the stretch marks, the lines on your face, they're not flaws. They're proof. Proof that you lived, that you endured, that you carried others when they couldn't walk. And now, it's your turn to carry yourself gently, to honor this home you've lived in all your life. Eat things that make you feel nourished, not just full. Move not to look good in a mirror, but to feel free in your skin. Rest without guilt. Stretch, not because a doctor said so, but because it feels like kindness. Because aging isn't a breakdown, it's a return. A return to the basics. Breathing, moving, noticing, appreciating. And the older you get, the more sacred those things become. There's something we all carry, whether we talk about it or not. Some of us carry guilt, others carry shame, and some carry a quiet question we ask ourselves late at night. Why did I do that? Why didn't I speak up? What if I had chosen differently? The past has a funny way of sticking around. It hides in old photos, in songs on the radio, in places we avoid going. But here's what I've learned. The past doesn't haunt us because of what happened. It haunts us because we haven't forgiven ourselves for how it happened. I once heard a woman, 93 years old, whisper to her granddaughter, "There's nothing heavier than a memory you won't let go of." She had spent most of her life reliving the same mistake, a choice she made in her 30s that changed everything. She carried that pain like it was her punishment. But here's the truth. You are not the same person you were back then. You're not the young, scared version of yourself who made that decision with limited tools and a hopeful heart. You've grown, you've learned, and it's time to make peace. Peace doesn't mean forgetting. It means looking at the past and saying, "I see you, I understand you, and I release you." Write the letter you've never dared to write. Speak the words to your reflection that you've been afraid to hear. And if you cry, let the tears come. That's not weakness. That's weight leaving the soul. You don't need to earn redemption. You only need to allow it. Because growing old isn't just about years passing. It's about learning to live lighter, so you can feel more free. You know, somewhere along the way, we started believing that being busy means being valuable, that the more we accomplish, the more we're worth. That stillness is laziness. That slowing down is something to feel guilty about. But here's the truth. Life was never meant to be a race. It was meant to be felt. Not rushed through like a checklist, but touched, breathed in, noticed. There's this beautiful thing that happens as you get older. Time starts to whisper instead of shout. The noise quiets down, and suddenly, you realize just how much you missed while running full speed ahead. You start to notice the way your morning coffee feels warmer when you drink it slowly. You begin to actually hear the sound of the wind in the trees, not just pass by it. You look at the faces around the dinner table and think, this is everything. I remember an older man I met in a quiet cafe once. He must have been close to 90. He sat alone with a small plate of bread and a cup of tea, smiling at everyone who passed. Eventually, I struck up a conversation. I asked him what made him so content. He looked at me, paused, and said, "Because I stopped needing life to be extraordinary to enjoy it." Let that sink in. We spend so much time waiting for big moments, birthdays, weddings, promotions, milestones. But most of life? It's made of ordinary days, quiet Tuesdays, rainy afternoons, late-night talks, a walk around the block, a deep breath. If you don't learn to fall in love with those, you'll spend your whole life chasing fireworks and miss the stars that were shining above you all along. Presence isn't about perfection. It's about attention. It's about being awake for your own life, not numb, not distracted, not buried in regrets of the past or fears about the future. Just here, right here, where your feet are, where your heart still beats, where love still exists, where peace can still be found. And if you're blessed to grow old, really old, you'll find that the moments that stay with you aren't the grand ones. They're the quiet ones. Your child falling asleep in your arms, a friend's laugh you can still hear in your memory, a sunset you watched with no phone, no camera, just you. So, if you want to grow old without regret, don't just add years to your life. Add life to your years. Show up, feel it all, say what matters, let go of what doesn't. And when the time comes to look back, may you smile, not because life was perfect, but because you were present for it. Because in the end, the real miracle wasn't the years you had, it was the moments you noticed,